Stop what you are doing right now, because what is happening in the world of tennis at this very moment is something that fans have been waiting a long time to see. If you have been sleeping on Alex Eala, if you have been dismissing the hype, if you have been telling yourself that the excitement surrounding this young woman is somehow exaggerated, today is the day that everything changes, because Berlin just got a visitor, and the tennis world will never be quite the same again. June 2026, Berlin, Germany. The Berlin Open is officially underway, and tournaments of this caliber are usually defined by the names everyone already knows: the defending champion, the world #1, the Grand Slam legends who have spent years building their reputations on the biggest courts in the world. That is how it usually works. Established stars command the spotlight. Veterans control the conversation. The tennis hierarchy stays exactly where it has always been. But not this week, not in Berlin. Because something has shifted, and the shift has a name: Alex Eala. The moment she arrived in Berlin, something changed in the atmosphere of the entire tournament. And we are not talking about a quiet, under-the-radar entrance. We're talking about the kind of arrival that makes an entire venue stop and take notice. Fans lined up just to catch a glimpse of her. Cameras that are usually pointed at headliners followed her every move from the moment she stepped onto the grounds. Practice sessions that would normally draw a handful of curious spectators suddenly became must-see events, packed with supporters who simply wanted to be in her presence. Tournament organizers noticed, fellow players noticed, the media noticed. Even the people who had never closely followed her career before walked away from those early moments in Berlin with one clear thought: something special is happening here. Stop what you are doing right now, because what is happening in the world of tennis at this very moment is something that fans have been waiting a long time to see. If you have been sleeping on Alex Eala, if you have been dismissing the hype, if you have been telling yourself that the excitement surrounding this young woman is somehow exaggerated, today is the day that everything changes, because Berlin just got a visitor, and the tennis world will never be quite the same again. June 2026, Berlin, Germany. The Berlin Open is officially underway, and tournaments of this caliber are usually defined by the names everyone already knows: the defending champion, the world #1, the Grand Slam legends who have spent years building their reputations on the biggest courts in the world. That is how it usually works. Established stars command the spotlight. Veterans control the conversation. The tennis hierarchy stays exactly where it has always been. But not this week, not in Berlin. Because something has shifted, and the shift has a name: Alex Eala. The moment she arrived in Berlin, something changed in the atmosphere of the entire tournament. And we are not talking about a quiet, under-the-radar entrance. We're talking about the kind of arrival that makes an entire venue stop and take notice. Fans lined up just to catch a glimpse of her. Cameras that are usually pointed at headliners followed her every move from the moment she stepped onto the grounds. Practice sessions that would normally draw a handful of curious spectators suddenly became must-see events, packed with supporters who simply wanted to be in her presence. Tournament organizers noticed, fellow players noticed, the media noticed. Even the people who had never closely followed her career before walked away from those early moments in Berlin with one clear thought: something special is happening here. What makes this arrival so significant is that Alex Eala did not walk into the Berlin Open as a hopeful qualifier, searching for a lucky break. She did not arrive as an underdog, quietly hoping for one good result to justify her place at the table. She arrived as one of the most talked-about young stars on the entire WTA Tour, a player whose name generates conversation, excitement, and genuine anticipation everywhere she competes. And that status was not handed to her. It was not manufactured through marketing campaigns or social media strategies. It was built through performance, through courage, and through a relentless willingness to compete fearlessly against some of the biggest names in the sport.
because to truly understand why this moment feels so enormous, you have to look back at the journey that brought her here. Over the past several months, Alex Eala has delivered a series of breakthrough performances that have completely rewritten the conversation around her. One by one, she has stepped onto courts against established stars, against players with Grand Slam titles and world ranking points that most young athletes can only dream about, and she has competed, not just participated, not just held her own, she has genuinely threatened, genuinely challenged, and genuinely forced the tennis world to reassess everything it thought it knew about the timeline of her development. The question used to be whether she belonged among the elite. That question has been answered. Now, the only conversation worth having is exactly how far she can go. And in Berlin, that conversation has taken on a life of its own. Social media lit up the moment she arrived, flooded with clips, photos, and reactions from fans around the world who have been tracking every step of her incredible rise. Accounts dedicated to women's tennis, to Filipino sports, to global tennis coverage. All of them were buzzing with the same energy, the same excitement, the same collective feeling that something important was about to unfold. The Berlin Open has hosted memorable tournaments before. It has seen great champions lift trophies and great matches that fans still talk about years later. But this week, it has become something more. It has become the latest and perhaps most exciting chapter in the remarkable rise of Alex Eala.
And here is what makes her story so much bigger than tennis. Because the impact she has created does not stop at the baseline. It does not stop when the match ends and the players walk off the court. What Alex Eala has built extends into living rooms and school courts and community centers across the Philippines and all across Asia, where millions of young people are watching her and believing for the very first time that the biggest stages in the world are not reserved for someone else. Not long ago, she was described as talented, described as promising, described as someone to watch in the future. That conversation is completely over. She is not a future star. She is a star right now, today, competing and thriving and inspiring on the biggest stages the sport has to offer. What has captured the hearts of fans is not just the results. Results matter, of course, but results alone do not explain the kind of devotion that follows Alex Eala from tournament to tournament. What people connect with is something deeper. They see her determination, the way she competes as though losing is simply not something she is willing to accept without a fight. They see her humility, the way she carries herself with a quiet grace that stands out in a sport where ego can sometimes overshadow ability. And they see her fearlessness, the way she steps across the net from players with enormous reputations and absolutely refuses, to be intimidated by a single moment. That combination has turned casual observers into dedicated believers, and dedicated believers into some of the most passionate supporters in the entire sport. The commercial world has taken notice too, because that kind of influence is impossible to ignore. Major brands, sponsors, and media organizations across multiple industries have begun paying much closer attention to everything surrounding Alex Eala. They recognize what her supporters have known for a long time, that she represents something genuinely unique in the current landscape of women's tennis. She has become a symbol of possibility for an entire generation of young athletes, particularly throughout the Philippines and across Asia, where her rise has sparked a level of national and regional excitement that goes far beyond sport. Young players who once dreamed simply of participating in major tournaments are now looking at Alex Eala and believing they can compete with the very best in the world. That kind of influence cannot be measured by any ranking system. It changes the future of the sport itself. Back in Berlin, the energy on the grounds is unlike anything the tournament has seen in recent memory. Everywhere she goes, there is a buzz, a current of anticipation that follows her like a second shadow. Tennis supporters from around the world, not just Filipino fans, but fans from every corner of the globe who have been drawn into her story, are watching every development closely and believing that this tournament could be the setting for another major statement in her incredible journey. Inside the locker rooms and practice courts, the tennis world itself is paying close attention. Analysts have been discussing her development with growing seriousness. Commentators are no longer framing her improvement as something to monitor. They are treating it as something to celebrate because the improvement has been rapid, visible, and impossible to dismiss.
And opponents, the players who have to stand across the net from her, know something the casual fan is only beginning to understand. Facing Alex Eala is no longer a comfortable assignment. She brings energy, she brings aggression, she brings a style of play that creates problems that even the most experienced players in the world find difficult to solve.
And behind all of it, fueling every moment, is a support base that has become one of the most remarkable stories within her story. Millions of Filipino fans who have followed her journey from the very beginning, who have woken up in the early morning hours to watch her compete in different time zones, who have celebrated her victories as shared moments of national pride and felt her challenges as something personal and real. Those fans are here again in Berlin, watching, believing, and dreaming. Not dreaming of a respectable result or a decent run, dreaming of something bigger. They believe she can go deep in this tournament. They believe she can challenge anyone in the draw. They believe she belongs on the same stage as the sport's biggest names. And here is what makes that belief so powerful in this moment. Alex Eala appears to believe it too. There is something different in the way she carries herself now. A calm, a certainty, a quiet inner confidence that separates the players who are hoping to succeed from the players who have decided they will. The players who truly change sports are almost always the ones who develop that feeling before the rest of the world catches up to what they already know. And watching Alex Eala in Berlin, watching the way she moves, the way she competes, the way she handles the enormous weight of expectation that follows her everywhere she goes, it is increasingly clear that she has crossed that line. She no longer looks like a player trying to prove she belongs. She looks exactly like someone who has already proven it and is now focused entirely on what comes next. That mindset was built through everything she has already been through. The difficult matches, the pressure situations where the score was close and the stakes were high and the easy choice would have been to tighten up and play it safe. The victories over higher-ranked opponents that no one predicted. The defeats that hurt but taught her something valuable about herself and the game. Every single one of those moments contributed to the player who arrived in Berlin this week with momentum, with confidence, and with a level of experience that her age alone would never suggest. And that combination, momentum, confidence, and experience all working together at the same time, is genuinely dangerous for anyone who has to face her across the net.
The crowds in Berlin are larger around her. The media attention is stronger. The anticipation every time she walks onto a court is greater than it has ever been at any point in her young career. And fans who have followed this journey for years understand that they may be watching something historic unfold in real time. They have seen her grow year after year, match after match, tournament after tournament. They have seen her game evolve. They have seen her become someone who does not just participate in the biggest moments, but someone who creates them. So here we are, Berlin, 2026. The courts are ready. The crowds have arrived. The cameras are focused. And at the very center of all of it stands a 20-year-old from the Philippines who began this journey as a promise and has delivered on every single word of it. Every match in Berlin matters. Every point carries weight. Every moment on court adds another line to a story that is still being written and already feels legendary. She is no longer simply a rising player finding her place in the sport. She is one of the names people are most excited to watch, one of the players the tennis world simply cannot take its eyes off. Alex Eala has arrived at the Berlin Open not as a guest, not as a contender who got lucky, and not as someone still waiting for her moment. She has arrived like a queen, not because anyone handed her that crown, but because through determination, through courage, through performance after performance on the biggest stages in the world, she went out there and earned it. The next chapter begins right now.